episode 308 of the Global from Asia podcast. We got John Graham Harper back on talking about Stuck in China, part 2, what happened after.
Welcome to the Global from Asia podcast, where the daunting process of running an international business is broken down into straight-up, actionable advice. And now, your host, Michael Michelini.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Global from Asia podcast. I just talked to Sophie in Xiamen, China. She reached out about some speaker events that she might get me involved with, and she told me she's been listening to this podcast for like a while, and she really appreciates it. I'm like, wow, you listen? I don't even know. We just make this stuff. She listens on the WeChat. We also put these podcasts in Chinese WeChat. So thank you, Sophie, for listening. Thank you, everyone else, for listening. And we hope these shows help you, inspire you, motivate you, make you take action. And today's is a follow-up podcast from episode 247. If you want to listen back in the archives, back in April of 2019, we had John Graham Harper on the show talking about being stuck in China. He had an exit ban. He's on the blacklist. He couldn't get out of China without paying these penalties or from a lawsuit or a court order. And he reached out to me, and there's been an update, and there's some closure, and he wanted to let everybody know from the listeners that had reached out or supported his campaign. I threw in a little bit of money in the hat too, so he wanted to follow up with us about what's happening. So you don't have to listen to the previous episode, but if you want to hear a full story of how this happened, you can go back to about a year ago in 247 of the Global from Asia podcast. But this is episode 309, and we're talking about what happened. And if you had asked me then, I was in Thailand when we did this, and now I'm back in China too. And I don't know if I'm stuck, but as far as leaving, it's going to be hard to get back if I leave. You know, there's these stories of people saying you can't get into China now. They're not going to open the borders until maybe next year, 2021. So maybe I'm even stuck in China now, or it's not like I could leave, but it would be hard for me to get back. So let's tune into this show. I think John's always a great guest. He's got some interesting stories and lessons, and you can listen to what happened to him with this horrible experience I hope you or I never get ourselves into. Let's tune in. Do you enjoy the content here at Global from Asia? Maybe you want some help with your own content? We have an amazing team making these shows, making this content, and we've actually made a little service for people that want to support the show and get their own content at contentinvestments.com. We have some long-term clients who have been working with us on a regular basis. We can do ongoing projects, one-time projects, web content, and multimedia. Check it out today at www.contentinvestments.com. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in to our Global from Asia podcast. We have a follow-up show. It was Stuck in China with John Graham, and we have him back on the show. He's still stuck in China?
Yep. Want to give everybody an update, yeah?
Yeah, we want to hear. So that was episode 247 when the show went online. If you didn't hear that first one, definitely we'll link it in the show notes, so check that one out. It's been over a year now, right?
That's right. We're coming on to about 2 years.
2 years now for this whole case. I think we recorded the show about a year ago, but your whole story has been a couple of years. So for those that didn't, just a real quick, I guess I'll catch people up from the last show if you didn't get to listen to that yet, or you haven't heard it in a while. He had a horrible situation with a deal gone bad with his old gym, and the buyer of the business made a legal suit, and it turned into, John being put on an exit ban when he went to Hong Kong, or tried to go to Hong Kong for an event. He couldn't go. I remember you said like the GoPros and the customs guys came and
that's right,
picked you up in Shenzhen side without letting you go to Hong Kong, and so you've been fighting this battle. We did a crowdfunding campaign, so I think that's the quick one, and you were working on trying to build a case to fight this guy that put you in this horrible exit ban situation. I think that's a really, really fast one, but I definitely recommend people to listen to that last episode if they haven't.
I was trying to get to the Philippines for a buddy of mine's birthday, and I was flying out from Shenzhen. So I was going through customs, and then like something beeped on the screen of the computer, and no. you know when immigration, that guy has that look, but he doesn't know, and you don't know either, right? You're just like, okay, there's something wrong, but this is going to be a good story. You kind of have that feeling,
Yeah.
But yeah, they had like GoPros attached to their bodies, and they were like straight away started filming me. They put me in this holding area, and it was well over an hour. I was just sitting there trying to figure out and they were like, don't talk, don't move, just sit there, be quiet. And then finally I found out that, they came out, they read a statement to me. They said, oh, you have a case. You have to address this case until the borders of China. So they basically just turned me around, and I went back into China.
Unbelievable.
But that's where it all started. And where we are right now, sad to say, like I was telling you, Mike, just the other day, the update, it's not a happy ending, but it is an ending nonetheless. And it's one that I kind of feel the only solace I get is if I share this story out, get it out to the public. The more people that are aware, the less likely they're going to make the same mistakes that I did and get into, such a situation like this, right?
Sure, I know, man. So let's kind of pick up before we get to the bad ending. Let's maybe, so you were, I think when we ended, you were raising a little bit of money to support the putting together a case. You had a lawyer that was going to try to help. Do you want to maybe share with what happened since the last show? Maybe start from there.
Yeah. So basically, the reason I ran the campaign, me and my old business partner, that he was involved in the same gym. We said, okay, look, we're gonna raise a campaign. We gotta do a campaign. We're gonna raise money for this. But the reason we're gonna do it is to fight this case, not to bail me out. So I was very specific about that. Like, I didn't want to raise the full amount to get me out of the trouble completely. I said, no, I just need a little bit to hire a good lawyer, and not just one, but like a lawyer team. And then with this team, I can try to take this to a much higher court and try to get this case retried and, and get the right evidence to eventually win. So, and then once I raised that money, I acquired the lawyer. So the lawyers went to work, and they advised me. They said very, very clearly, they said, do not do any more media stuff, because this could affect the retrial, right? So they said, keep quiet on media, stop making, and because it could be bad for you. The judge may not appreciate that you're making all this public. So that's why I kind of went dark. And what I did was on the funding campaign, on the funding page, and on my Facebook, all my social media, I just messaged everyone. I said, look, if you want like updates, or if you want to know other information, just message me privately, but I'm not going to be putting up, any sort of public up in the clear. And so I've had a lot off, just with direct message, which, because I need to update people, and tell them ins and outs, but I just couldn't make anything public. And then, it was a job of just getting enough evidence. And then once the evidence was all collected, putting this case into a much higher court than the one I was being sued in. And then this case, then sort of appealing to get the case retried. And oh my God, did this take a long time? Yeah. Like, we're talking, so not only was there, all the holidays, you got Christmas, New Year's, Chinese New Year, then the coronavirus came, and it's just delay. But, I wouldn't really say that all these delays weren't normal. I think usually case proceedings like this, they always take a lot of time. If you talk to anyone that's been in a court case before, they'll always tell you that, this is kind of the way things are. Things always take a long time.
I understand.
So really trained my patience.
I'm sure, man.
Yeah. So kind of like slowly, yeah, I kept asking for updates, and they said, yeah, okay, we've messaged the judge team, the assistant, and they said, still need to wait, maybe another week, maybe another month, maybe, and it's just, I just kept saying, any updates, any updates, any updates. And I did put out a few videos like on my YouTube and then on the funding page, just to tell everyone that, again, I can't be too public about what's going on, but this is just comes down to the big wait. So I'm waiting, the moment anything comes up, I'll let everybody know. I was just waiting. And then about 2 weeks ago, the judges of this, they're having deliberations about your case. So they begin talking. Right? So I'm like, okay. So we're going to get a decision soon, right? And the decision is whether or not this case is retried. So once the case, if I get the notice saying that, yes, we've decided to retry this case, then what I do is I go to the old court where I'm being sued at, and I basically I can cancel the old verdict. And once that old verdict is canceled, my name is off the blacklist. I'm still in an open case. I'm still in a case that's ongoing, but I don't have guilty. I'm not guilty, right? And that was the goal. The goal was to get a lawyer team to be able to get me to just so where I at least had a fighting chance in this Chinese system, right?
Yeah, I know, dude.
Yeah. So, but sad to say, after it's about 2 years into this journey, just Monday, so that was the day before yesterday, I got feedback from the lawyers who got feedback from the court that they just simply denied the retrial. They denied the appeal. Their words were, I sort of passed the deadline for when I could make this sort of appeal. So I said, what does this mean? And then the lawyer said, essentially the court values procedural justice more than substantive justice. So that's they basically just said, we stick to our process. So therefore, that's just the end of it. So yeah, that's the kind of where the story ends. So I obviously have to pay, and if I don't pay, then yeah, I risk, very, severe consequences if I don't pay. Okay. So yeah, that's the end of the story, guys. Okay. Thanks for being on this journey with me.
Sure, man. I mean, so maybe I could just recap, because some of the dates, I know we're recording this end of April, so the show will probably come out in early May. So then it seems like finally it seems like in mid-April they finally started to contact you to talk. And then once it started, it seems like it went pretty fast with them unfortunately giving this negative answer of the procedural justice over substantive justice, which I like your lawyer's interpretation, or a summary of that. So it seems like they just follow the procedure, right, which is procedural justice, even though it might not be correct or fair. That's what they stuck to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Why so long to simply deny an appeal and just say, sorry, there's a procedure? That I don't know. It could have been a very quick answer many months ago, 6-7 months ago. It could have been on, and them to give a response just simply saying no, and the reason being that it's procedural is that's like, I don't know, that I don't understand. Because if they said no, the evidence that you provided, it's not enough for us to justify a retrial, you're missing these different, things, or these questions come up, or, if there was any kind of other reason, it would kind of be I don't know how to say. I guess it would be a little bit more. It'd be easy for me to understand, but just to say no, we're following procedure. It's like, come on, guys, why didn't you tell me this 6 months ago? That like this is there's so much time in between here where this could have been a very quick fix, right? At least I would have been out of this court's hair. Wouldn't have been a case sitting on their desks if they could have just quickly looked at it and said, yeah, he's not following procedure. He's off by about 6 months. He missed the deadline.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of like, okay, all right, okay, I understand that. But then to delay so long, like a lot longer than I thought would be necessary for such a small case like this, and this kind of court, they're dealing with much larger cases. They're dealing with multi-million-dollar lawsuits. So this kind of case, I'm not, but I don't really know their process or how it all works. But yeah, that part I don't understand.
Okay. That's a bummer, man. So, hopefully I don't ask questions that are sensitive or hurt, but so you haven't been able to leave mainland China since we last talked. I mean, now, like, do you have a passport or you don't have a passport? Or, I mean, you can travel within China. I guess what's it been like the last year or two, traveling or living?
Yeah, it gets like there's a lot of people that have shared my story, or that I've been on their podcasts, or I've been in their media. Like I was even in the Australian Financial Review. It's quite a big newspaper over in Australia.
Yep.
I made it very clear. I said, no, I have my passport. I have my passport in my hands, but my name is on a list that pretty much every country has. And it's just a list of people that have ongoing court proceedings. And if they leave the country, then it isn't fair to the case, because they can get away with stuff, right? So I'm just on this list, but I have my passport and I can travel within China, no problem. Planes, trains, all of this, I've got no problem. Even renewing my visa is not a problem. Immigration and court are not really, connected in that way. I there's no problem for me to submit my passport and get my visa renewed. So that's all fine. But yeah, it's just it's a very simple. This name is attached to a case, and we just can't let him cross the border. It's only that it's just that simple.
Got it.
So
So yeah, anytime you go to like where they check your passport, they would just that beep or that weird look would those GoPro guys would come at you or something. I guess every time. Bummer, man. So I guess the next steps. I think I can't remember the amount. Honestly, I don't know if you want to share but how much time do you have? Is it a payment plan? Do you got to come up with it right away? Or you just stay on this list until you pay? I mean, or do you go to?
Yeah,
what's the situation then?
Yeah, obviously got to pay if I want to get off the list, and if I don't pay, there's much more severe consequences to not paying. But I'm not sure if I told you on the previous episode, but about, let's say, I think it was about 9 months ago, 10 months, maybe it's 9 months. Yeah. The enforcement department from the previous case came to me. They came and they looked for me to basically, long story short, without getting too much into detail about that particular night, which was extremely stressful.
Yeah, I remember. I think you told me on WeChat. We were chatting about it. I don't think it was on the show, but yeah, I remember.
But basically, they were cutting a deal, like a payment deal. So I've been paying up till now. Every month, I've been paying money, right? But I kind of felt like, all right, it's okay if I pay, but as long as justice is served, I wasn't in the wrong. This guy, is a dirty scammer, and if I just get my chance in court, the evidence is so crystal clear. Not only will my name be cleared, but I will win the case. So that was my thinking. I was like, it's okay if I have to pay in these months, and and hustle to make these payments, because in the future, justice will be served. I had this notion of, like I'm like some superhero.
Yeah.
And guy always wins, but no, that's not how it works. But that was, so I've been paying already. So as of today, I've got about, I think, 6 more months of the current payment schedule before the entire amount is done and I'm off the blacklist. So regardless of however, this is over in 6 months.
So what are some, maybe what can people learn from this? I mean, I know you want to also, like you said, you want to share the story and have people learn. I mean, what are some lessons or business, especially us as foreigners in China doing business? We could maybe have, a few different topics on this, but there could be books, of course, there are books, but from your own experience, what would you say is some lessons?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because after this kind of a situation, I'm thinking like, like is the system like fair? That's kind of like a big question that kind of has been raised in my head. I'm thinking like, what do I tell people? Do I tell them that, is the system isn't fair, or should I just say I had bad luck, right? That I'm not 100% sure what my final message is on that, but definitely if China's changing in a way where I think if you're an expat, if you're a foreigner here, you need to have all your bases covered. You can't just assume I have the evidence, or I have, I'm right. You kind of have to do a little extra work. I think you got to cover yourself a little bit more extra than Chinese need to, I believe. I think at the end, that's kind of the best I can say, because obviously right now it's kind of, just to get this news, it's kind of a bummer. The tough part isn't really the pain. It's the tough part is kind of coming to the realization that I had like a just cause. I was right, but I still lost. That's kind of where it gets a little, messy in my head, because I'm thinking like, when you're right and you've done everything right, but then you still lose, it's worse than if you were wrong and you lost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess I remember some listeners asked me after the show, there was contract. I remember we said in the first episode, the first recording, I remember we said it was like treated as a loan instead of actual as a sale of the equipment. People were still a bit not clear if that was on a contract, or was it something missed on the contract? I mean, I think that was something people were asking me last time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is another good thing it's good for me to get an opportunity to clear this up as well. This is another thing that is somewhat misinterpreted in the way that I've said it. Different media channels have kind of like said it. They said it in a way, but it isn't technically right. And obviously when it comes to court proceedings, the exact way you phrase something is really important. It can't be too like, it has to be very clear. So actually, at the end of the day, every document that I signed isn't what made me lose. It was just simply not knowing about and addressing the case in court. So I want to make that very, very clear. The documents themselves weren't what, I didn't sign a bad document. Yes, there was some documents that maybe didn't really help from his side or from my side, but for example, there were 2 documents that I signed, but the plaintiff only submitted 1 document in the case. So had I known about the case, I had the other document, I easily would have submitted that, and they would have said, oh yeah, both these documents, both signed. Okay, you're in the clear, John. You understand what I mean? It wasn't that I signed bad documents. It was how the documents were used and me not addressing the case. That was where the mistake was.
Okay.
Does that make
That helps a lot. Yeah, because I remember there was some people like chatting about it before, and they felt like, well, if it was in a contract, why would maybe you just maybe you didn't read the contract, or you missed something with the Chinese or something. But yeah, I think it was. I remember. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. I'll say it too. You know, a lot. I don't answer phone when my phone rings. Like, it's like an unknown Chinese number. I think it's like a advertisement or some spam. So I'm assuming you're getting calls, or maybe your number changed or your address changed, and you can't be reached. I had something where the police came to my house because I didn't register with the police, and they kept calling my number, and I kept hanging up because I didn't know what they were saying. And they came to my apartment saying I needed to register with the police when I arrived back from China. And so I think it was, because I think a lot of expats or foreigners, you know, we just ignore the calls or the text. We can't read the text messages or the phone calls. So I think that was the one that was what the issue was. So then he just filed whatever he wanted to file. Because you didn't respond to the case and didn't show up in court, he won automatically no matter what.
That's right. Exactly right. Yeah, I'm glad to be able to clear that up, to make that, because, you know, it is, of course, it's always got to be careful about what you sign and how it's translated, these sorts of things. I think everyone knows this, right? But a lot of people like have come up to me on the street and say, "Hey, John, yeah, I've heard your story. Yeah, you signed some bad documents." And it was like, you know, yeah, but that wasn't actually the problem. I have way more evidence on my side. I've a stupid amount of evidence. Like that, if I had my day in court, I would have won this case. So it wasn't so much signing a bad document that, quote unquote, it wasn't that. It was just how the document was used. One document submitted, but not the other four. But then if you submit the other four, then the picture is clear, right?
Yeah, so he like selectively took what he would benefit
I'm not
him.
going to put that one. I won't put that one. I'll put this one. You know, but I had them all. I was like, they're all there, and these are the documents that I posted up online. You know,
okay. Got it. Makes sense. Man, well, so at least by 2021, I mean, it's been a really rough, actually, for everybody. I think I want to ask, I don't know, maybe you don't have an opinion or you don't. Do you think maybe if this was a few years ago for foreigners in China, it would have been different? Or I feel like it's been getting harder for us in China, you know. I don't know if you'd agree or have a comment on that, but I think it's getting harder for us. I think if it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you might have had a different outcome, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that actually, when I hear that, actually, I pretty much would fully agree with that. Yeah, it's just a different vibe now, right? It's a very much a different vibe. And
I don't know if any lawyer, I don't know if your lawyer or any lawyers or people in the system would have commented on something like that either, like Chinese people too, you know. But I feel like it's just getting. I mean, maybe it was almost too much the other way. Maybe a few years ago it would have been. Maybe we have no idea. You have no idea. I have no idea. But maybe it was too far easy for foreigners. Maybe they would have reconsidered it. But now I feel like they're just going too far the other way. But I don't know. I do want to say though, you know, I think Chinese have the same problem with courts too. You know, I think you had this bad outcome, but I think a Chinese person in your situation would have had similar if they had done this, if the same things happened to them. The same outcome would have happened, right? I don't think it's just because you're a foreigner. I think if anybody within the system didn't respond to the court case, they would have lost in this procedural justice.
That's right. Yeah, they would have. Yeah, exactly right. I think a lot of Chinese have the same kind of, you know, they may have, even in worse situations, right? I think there's a lot of cases between Chinese and Chinese that that probably end a lot worse. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, my wife's family has had some, even within the family, there was a bad deal, like something like this, and one of the, I don't know, some kind of uncle or something with my father-in-law had some kind of falling out with some kind of a restaurant, and my father-in-law lost it, and I think that's why a lot of Chinese don't take things to court, or they don't involve the court because they don't
Settling.
trust the system.
Yeah.
Well, man. All right. Well, I mean, thanks for being, thanks for sharing with everybody. And I guess the biggest takeaway is, well, we can't really say it would have not been the situation 4, 5, 10 years ago, but I think nowadays, especially, I think you got to just be really careful about doing business. I guess everywhere, but I mean, so do you have any ideas how many times they tried to call you or how they tried to contact you? Was it letters? Was it phone? What was the ways they were trying to, do you know? Did they tell you?
Yeah, so my understanding, they would have at least called me 2 times. One would have been from the court, right? Would have been the court, some kind of notification. That I didn't answer that call. Second one would have been them trying to deliver me some court notice. That again, I didn't answer that. So 2 times, I think, is the amount. Is 2 times. They're not going to be keep calling. No, they do one. If they don't get it, they just go to the next procedure. They just go to there's a procedure book, I'm assuming, and they just say, okay, that's it. Next thing. But as far as a letter being mailed to me, it was mailed to an address that wasn't even my address. So why was an important document mailed to an address that wasn't even my address? That's like a question I've asked my lawyers, but they kind of fluffed it off like it's done all the time. Who's like, is the plaintiff giving an address to the court for the court to send me documents and it isn't even a legitimate address? Like, is that actually happening?
Yeah. Where do they get the address, or who sends them the address? The plaintiff, or?
So you just make up addresses? Is that how it works? It's like, come on, guys. Like, but anyway, yeah, I've got that address. Like, I've got a photo of that address where I was like, that's a good way to play it. You just tell the court, yeah, contact him at this address.
Yeah. I mean, if I want to sue somebody, I could just make up an address and make up a contract and just take it to court, and then they don't respond because it didn't get to them, and then I win, and then it's almost scary if that's what you have to do.
That's right. It's
all right. Well, thanks again for, I feel like I'm picking a scab on you or something, but thanks for sharing. I guess let's try to be a little bit more positive, or like talk about the future, so yeah, you're going to have some, the rest of the year you're going to be making these horrible payments, and what have you been doing? What are you up to now? What's your future? I guess I'm honestly curious, when you can get out of China, are you going to say, F this place, I'm gone, I'm out, I'm not coming back? Or are you going to hang out? Or are you going to maybe, what's your, I guess it's 2 questions, like what are you up to these days? And then what's your plan once you can leave?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like something I focus a lot more on. I had some really close buddies of mine come over to my office. I've got a boxing ring there, and we were doing some boxing, and they were asking me about the whole story. And I was like, yeah, like, I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you the story as quickly as I can. But the majority of what I'm going to tell you is the good stuff, because at the end of the day, everyone has their problems. Everyone has problems. Everyone goes through crazy stuff, right? Everyone has, and what makes my problems more important? It's only more important if I believe that there's a lesson, right? If I've got, hey guys, this happened to me, but here's the lesson. I'm not kind of like trying to take people's time, or like, hey, my problems are more important than yours, so listen, so like there's massive positives in this. I've just since kind of, like I'm a firm believer that in order for you to grow and reach your sort of your potential, you need to have a bit of fire under you. Something needs to trigger it, right? You got to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you're uncomfortable situation, you'd be surprised what you're capable of. And during this time when I've had to deal with this, I've actually have like gained a lot more opportunities, network, and I've just expanded my entire horizon so much more than previously when I didn't have this, right? And it's just because at the end of the day, you go home and you say, how am I going to deal with this? I can do, there's 2 ways I can do it. I can drag my feet and cry about it to everyone and complain and be a little baby. Or, you could be a man deal with it, and then actually not just deal with it, but actually get a lot of value out of it. So I kind of was like, I'll choose the latter, because man, it sucked to have to go through something like this, and it to be like for the loss to be compounded, for it to actually make me lose a lot more than just the money or the time or being stuck in China. Like that would really be something that would scar me for a long time. So if you choose to like, okay, make this count for something, and make this to one of those things where like, actually, this really helped me. It helped me, branch off into these new, opportunities. And so far, that's exactly what's happened. So I'm happy about that. I've learned crowdfunding. It took 2 months to study crowdfunding, and I studied it. Now I've pretty much got it waxed.
Awesome.
So who knows? Like maybe in the future, if I launch some business, I'll be like, hey, crowdfunding, let's try that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, no, it's great, dude. I mean, you're doing. I saw a lot of your different contents, and you've been getting the word out,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
it's awesome.
I started my podcast. I mean, that's kind of just for some giggles. It's just kind of like something to pass the time. But I started a podcast. I started actually, to be honest with you, I think I've started 4 new businesses during this time.
Oh man, that's great, man. That's great. Being creative, it's art. I guess my last question is, what do you think of? I mean, are you I guess, are you gonna hang out in China after, or are you gonna be sick of it? Go back. Like Australia, you're from, I guess you can't wait to get back as soon as you can, maybe for Christmas or hopefully or the end of the year. You're making plans.
Yeah, China's okay. It's not. I can't really let a situation like this kick me out of China. There's so many bigger things I'm working on right now that are far greater than just this little case that I have to deal with. This is like a little mosquito I need to swat and get rid of and move on. But yeah, it wouldn't be fair to my future and all that I've gone through to have, some scumbag who, with just that has nothing better to do than just to waste his life on scamming people, to be the reason I leave China, right? That's kind of how I'm
That's
thinking
great
about
attitude,
it.
man. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if there's anything, what's some things we can link to your, websites or projects, or people can find you.
Go to my podcast. It's some good some good laughs on there.
Nice.
I'm kind of chilling out with it. I'm not too structured. I'm kind of doing it the way Joe Rogan started, and just
great.
sort of having some fun with it. But it's just called The JG Show on podcast.
Okay, great.
By obviously Apple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll link to it in the show notes. And yeah, thanks so much. I really, really appreciate you sharing with us the update. And honestly, I wish, of course, we all wish it was a better one. But it seems like you're staying positive. And like you said, it's just a mosquito that bit you. And, you got much bigger and better things to do. So I wish you the best in future endeavors.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's good to get on. Share the story.
Sure, man. That's what it's all about. Hopefully this will save a few people from your nightmare. So appreciate it.
That's right. That's what counts.
Do you enjoy what you're listening to? Do you enjoy these amazing experts? Do you want to get in the inside of what we're doing at GFA? We have gfavip.com. We're doing regular calls, and these are not just like recorded podcasts or recorded content. This is live stuff. We're talking about real people doing business on the ground, getting things done, making things happen. If you want to get on the inside, we're trying to do even weekly calls on different topics, whether it's like blogging and e-commerce or outsourcing or special guests or encore shows or live meditation, whatever it is. I would love to get to know you more. It's a paid private membership application only, gfavip.com. Hope to see you there. Thank you, John, for sharing. It's awesome. Well, no, not awesome, man. You're going to pay. Well, it seems like you said you almost finished paying, but you're not going to get that payments back, and you got to fully pay this person, which seems like took advantage of the situation and filed a court order. And man, it's one of those lessons. Answer your phone when it's some weird number you don't know on China, right? Like if you don't answer this unknown number or this random number, which I have the time think is some kind of spam advertisement, because you sometimes get spam bombed with phone calls and texts in China, right? And many of us were foreigners, were like, or you even answer it's in Chinese, you don't know, it's think it's some kind of advertisement, telemarketer, and you hang up. I guess the lesson is don't hang up. Oh, unbelievable. Or answer those phone calls, or somehow have your address up to date. I don't know what's the best answer for people, but thank you for sharing, John, and giving us some closure, and I hope you get through the rest of those payments, and you have your name taken off that blacklist, and you're able to make decisions and operate as you need. But it seems like you'll be still continuing your China journey, even after that horrible experience. So I hope you all enjoyed that little episode, and we have so many more shows to go. I mean, it's just been tons of stuff happening here at Global from Asia. I'm doing this from my new apartment in Shenyang, China. You might hear some birds chirping. My daughter wanted some birds, and my mother-in-law bought her some birds because she gets anything she wants. So future episodes might have some birds chirping, because in my apartment we have parakeets, or these little tropical green birds, 2 of them in a little cage in my house. All right, well, we should all be grateful. I've been trying to continue to go through my transformation. You have to be grateful, appreciate what you have, appreciate where you are, appreciate the air you breathe, the food you eat, the body you have that's keeping you alive and healthy. Let's all try to appreciate. And I am going to maybe call this one over and out. Next week we got some more shows. I'm getting some great interviews here. If you have any feedback for me, or if I could beg for a review on iTunes, supposedly Apple will help us get more people consuming this content, because we spend a lot of time and money making these, and I hope you all enjoy them. Thanks so much, and have a great day, or week, or morning, or night, or some meal. You're walking your dogs, or whatever you're doing. Enjoy.
To get more info about running an international business, please visit our website at www.globalfromasia.com. That's www.globalfromasia.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our iTunes feed. Thanks for tuning in.